Hello and welcome to International Full Soap Timeline Hangout 34. I say Hangout 34 rather than Live Hangout 34 because it's rather annoying actually. I was planning to live stream this at 10 PM New York time Thursday night. That's 2 AM London time as things stand until Saturday when there'll be a 5-hour difference. This is 3:35 AM now on Friday, and I got to the YouTube half hour early, but I couldn't. They've altered the software. They've you have to encode it now, and I don't know how much of the problem. I mean, there could be several problems. One might not be mine. I found this message from Hazel of Team YouTube fixed. Error messages appearing for uploads and live streams on March 26th. 42 replies to that. Hey everyone! Exclamation mark. We experienced a few issues for approximately 30 minutes this morning, PST Pacific Standard Time on March 26th. It caused error messages to show while uploading and editing videos. Some of you may have also had trouble watching videos and live streams. Everything's back to normal now and the issue's been fixed. Well, not for me, it isn't. I'm also using Windows 7, which Croydon libraries and Bromley libraries, I think probably every library in the country is still using Windows 7. I don't want to upgrade because Windows 10 is a horrible product. I don't know if that's anything to do with it. But whatever, I couldn't live stream. I managed to make some thumbnails, but I couldn't live stream. On top of that, one person turned up for sure. Is a guy who was turned up for my last live stream. I don't know if anybody else did. So I may do these hangouts like this in future if I do any more. This is a hangout, but not a live hangout. Anyway, I was going to cover some stuff I've covered before. For my American clientele, as it were, and also some news and various things. I may do it like this because I can insert. There's a few things I want to insert which I can't do properly on a live stream. Not with my setup anyway. The big thing, of course, at the moment is this infernal infection, which is, I mean, where I live in southeast London, I went to a supermarket yesterday, and I ended up getting a couple of things from the hardware store because I didn't want to hang around for half hour queuing at 10 feet apart or whatever it is to get into the local Lidl. You know, governments come up into a lot of criticism about this. Trump especially, of course, because these media arseholes hate him, and their own government, and even the Chinese government. I find it very difficult to criticise any government, but even the Chinese government, because on the one hand, if they it's a fail-safe error. If they overreact, as it were. Oh my God, sneeze. That's not what you think it. I don't think many people sneeze with that virus, do they? But on the one hand, if they downplay it and it turns out to be like the second coming of the Black Death, millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions could die. And on the other hand, if they overstep the mark, as it were, if they treat it as though it were the Black Death, and it turns out to be something far less serious, then they get criticised for civil rights abrogations and trashing the economy. But really, that is the lesser of the evils. So I've got no criticism of any government as things stand. So even the Chinese government. Right. So that's that done. I was going to cover the twin, what they call the twin myths, but the of false rape allegations, but there are other things which are false rape allegations, which are other twin myths, which are and the real twin myths are not what they claim, the advocates claim. There are a few things to go through here. Firstly, Mike Buchanan of Justice for Men and Boys. I won't say I had an argument with him, but he seems to think there are a lot of false rape allegations made purely for money, certainly in the UK. I don't think that is the case. If you check out the timeline, there's a lot of material on it. Very few, from what I can see, are made purely for financial reasons. I'm not saying a woman. I think probably what happens if a woman makes a false allegation, she's told she can put in a claim, and maybe she puts in a claim because it will look suspicious if she doesn't. But in the UK, as far as I mean, false allegations are rife, not just of rape, but of all sorts of things, by men as well. Not, sexual and non-sexual. They're a major pest. I mean, you've only got to check some Freedom of Information Act inquiries, and just the odd Google search will tell you about the false allegations which are made. This is only the ones that reported. India has very specific problems with false rape allegations due to the dowry system and cultural reasons. New Zealand did have it had a very, very, very generous scheme for accident and crime victims, and there were a hell of a lot of women making false allegations there purely for money, men too of various things. As I said to Mike, the average, the maximum payout for false rape allegation, the maximum payout for a rape victim in this country is about £11,000, just under £12,000. If you raise it to $500,000, how many would you have then? You'd have a hell of a lot. You have women getting raped, literally for real, and setting them up and claiming it splitting it with their rapists. I mean, this is human nature. So anyway, that's my position on that. If you have any, if you differ, then fair enough. What else in the news front? Oh yeah, I just published another article on the Michael Jackson. That these two lowlifes, Jimmy Safechuck and Wade Robson, are persisting their claims against the Michael Jackson estate. If you're one of these people who believes Michael Jackson was a serial paedophile just because there were so many allegations against him, do some proper research, like I've done, like a lot of Michael Jackson fans have done, like a lot of non-Michael Jackson fans have done. I mean, these Safechuck and Robson, they are two low lives, and that Leaving Neverland, which was put out last year, it's going to be totally debunked. Right, I've got one or two other things here. Now before we go any further, Roy Hudd died. Comedian Roy Hudd died last week or this week. I wrote an obituary for him. I was checking his autobiography, which is an unrepeatable title. It's actually a phrase my grandmother used to use, in and out like one of those. This is very interesting. My earliest memory was of being held up by my aunt's head, held up above my aunt's head. And I've not got virus, it's just sniffles. My earliest memory was of being held up above my aunt's head, a la Roots, and being told, "Now look at this, it's something you'll never forget." Then being taken to the bedroom at 5 Neville Road in Croydon, Surrey, to see a huge red glow in the sky. It was November 1936, and the red glow was the Crystal Palace burning down. I was 6 months old, and I've never forgotten it. But do I remember it actually happening, or do I just remember being told about it? No, Roy, you didn't. This is, childhood amnesia is a very real thing. And what happens, the relevance of this to false rape allegations is, you see, you get this a lot with, if there's a rape in a soap opera or something, or there was a plot in EastEnders, which I haven't watched for years and don't intend to watch anymore, of a girl being groomed by her pervert stepfather, and you get lots of women phoning in reporting being sexually abused when they were kids, women in their 30s, 40s and 50s. No. This is confabulation due to childhood amnesia. I've done a live hangout on this about believing the children. On the same subject, where's this Aya Capelli? There was a bloke, Joel Aya Capelli, who here we are. In 2015, he was running a nursery, a church nursery in Sunday school sort of thing in South Carolina, and a 4-year-old girl on the Monday, she told her mother that Mr. Acapelli had removed her underwear and licked her. Then she retracted. Parents took her to mother took her to a paediatrician, of course, where there's mandatory reporting in America, which is thanks to the sexual grievance industry. So this bloke was arrested. They seized every computer in his place, and he wasn't there at the time. he was out all day, and he's just recently received a settlement of $500,000, which is very nice. But I'm sure a lot of people would rather not have the $500,000 and not be accused of being doing what he did. Kids fantasize. They fantasize, they confabulate, and sometimes they just lie. You know, if your 4-year-old daughter told you there was a crocodile under her bed, would you believe her? I've no doubt there are a lot of child sexual abuse cases like this, and there are a lot from women in their 20s, 30s, and men as well in their 20s, 30s, 40s, who are falsely accused of doing this sort of thing, and the imbeciles at the Crown Prosecution Service or wherever charge them, and it comes down to why would a woman lie? Why would this person make this up? And in America, you've got statutes of limitations in some states, which Gloria Allred, that cunt, is doing her best to remove, and has done some success. But in America, district attorneys have powers to threaten accused with draconian sentences if they don't cop a plea. I mean, Brian Banks, you'll find him on the database. He was threatened with an absolutely horrendous sentence unless he pleaded guilty to rape, and he did. He got, I think it was a 10-year sentence out in 6, and then what happened next is unreal. And there've been lots of cases like that. Abuse of prosecutorial power. Duffy, yes, Duffy, I mentioned this last time. Duffy, the singer-songwriter, was praised by the rape crisis for coming out about the long-term effects of rape. She'd been off the radar for a few years, and recently she claimed that she'd been some years ago she was held captive and drugged and raped repeatedly over a period of time, and she was praised. No, you don't want praising, dear. You want condemnation. In the first place, if you made this up, as I suspect you did, it's outrageous. In the second place, if this really did happen to you, why didn't you report it? Yeah. Why didn't you report it then? Because do I need to mention John Warboys, Stephen Port, the homosexual serial killer? There are men like this out there, and if you really were raped, you're aiding and abetting this lowlife. So that's that. Another piece here. This is very interesting. This is from New Zealand. This is Pizza Hut worker reported rape by a colleague. Human Resources said it was a personal matter. Fast food outlet Pizza Hut stalled for before agreeing to investigate a claim that one of its managers raped a worker. No. What? No. If you're raped, right? If a guy tries to rape you at work or anywhere else, you don't report it to the management. This is what you do. No, it wasn't me. And you fight, you kick, punch, claw. You report it immediately. It's just too silly for words. There's a case here. I'll stop the video now and insert this, I think.
The dean of a Bronx charter school is now facing rape charges, accused of having sex with a 15-year-old student. 34-year-old Grace Trinidad works at New Vision's Advanced Math and Science High School. Police say Trinidad was mentoring the student and brought him to her Bronx apartment where she allegedly had sex with him August 31st. Charges against Trinidad include rape and endangering the welfare of a child. Bail has been set at $10,000.
Yeah, there have been quite a few of those cases of late. No doubt the kid reported after she stopped having sex with him. Don't be fooled by these these so-called advocates who, they say that there've been lots of cases like this. Also, they support men who claim to have been sexually abused or raped, sexually abused as kids. Most men who claim to have been raped have had, or heterosexuals have had perverted sex and then have withdrawn their consent afterwards, because they can't. There's still, thankfully, a bit of a stigma about being a homosexual in the West, and or personal stigma. So don't believe any of this. They use these cases to solicit male support for the erosion of due process, the continued erosion of due process. So that's there's been a few cases like that. Right. Yeah. Recently, Oprah Winfrey has been accused of sex trafficking, which I suppose that's karma for her supporting those two arseholes who falsely accused Michael Jackson. Unless there's a police report, a contemporaneous police report, or some woman turns up at hospital and is obviously in a distressed state, don't believe a word of it. Don't believe any of it. Especially with celebrities. Every celebrity in the world with the age of social media, probably every celebrity in the world has been falsely accused of something. If not sexual, then something else. Don't forget, YouTube has over 1 billion users. That's just YouTube. Look at all the trolls on it. People make stuff up. Just because a a woman comes on YouTube or social media and claims to have been sexually abused, you don't even know if it's a woman who's making this allegation. You don't even know if she actually exists, if she's a real person. Even if you see her, you don't know who she is. So don't believe any of this garbage. Oprah can be. She isn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. I don't know how she got so rich, but some of her programs. You'll find one or two on the False Rape timeline. Sean Atwood. I should mention Sean Atwood. He's got a very big quite a big channel on YouTube. He's all charisma, but when he's talking about his own experiences, he's trustworthy. But he's developed a penchant for attacking Prince Andrew, and he promotes cranks like Sonia Porton and John Wedger. John Wedger is a former police officer who, no doubt, he was involved in child protection, but some of his claims are really utterly bizarre. John Wedger also champions Samantha Baldwin, who is a woman who falsely accused her husband or partner. They had 2 kids together. She accused him of interfering with the boys, and she kidnapped them. And it was her grandmother was the boys' grandmother was maternal grandmother was complicit, and it's just outrageous allegations. So don't believe any of these arseholes. Sean, I told him I've marked his card, but he's not interested. So he's continuing to attack Prince Andrew, continuing to support Virginia Roberts, so-called sex slave, self-styled sex slave Virginia Roberts, who by her own admission procured underage girls for Jeffrey Epstein. So don't believe a word of these arseholes. The Delhi rape gang were hanged. Four members. Well, there were 6 of them. The juvenile was served only 3 years, which is a horribly short sentence for such an atrocious crime. 1 committed suicide in prison, and 4 of them were hanged recently, including Mukesh Singh. Good riddance to bad rubbish. That's a real shocking, absolutely shocking case. That case also led to an increase in the number of false rape allegations in India. The Scottish politician Alex Salmon wasn't accused of actual rape, but he was accused of a couple of charges of attempted rape and sexual harassment and stuff. He was cleared of all charges. That one stinks to high heaven. He's a bit of a well, his wife is 17 years his senior, and he was playing away and playing a bit, but I don't believe any of the these women are pathetic. They really are pathetic. As I say, if your boss comes on to you, slap his face, or if not necessarily a boss, but somebody higher up the food chain, slap the bastard's face. On that theme, I found something else here very recently. Where is it? It's a girl who was attacked. 12-year-old girl was attacked, and this is what happened. This is a video from April last year. This lowlife grabbed a 12-year-old girl, dragged her into a woodland, tried to do something. Well, you don't need me to tell you what he tried to do. She managed to escape from him, and somebody pursued him. Women and quite young girls do fight back. That's why I don't buy all this garbage about I just froze, or I didn't think I'd be believed, or for these women who claim to have been raped or touched up, whatever, and years and decades later, it's all garbage, all of it. Right, now we're coming on to the main section. We can dispense with my ugly mug. The twin myths. Now, this is what you'll see on the screen. This is what they call the sexual grievance industry called the twin myths. Sexual assault myths back on trial in RV Goldfinch. This is Canada. Canada is perhaps the worst country in the world in which a man can be falsely accused of rape or of any sexual offence or any offence involving a woman. Statutes of limitations were abolished in, I think, 1981. There were no jury trials, and there's the usual rubbish of screening complainants, so-called victims and survivors, so they don't get the male gaze from the man they accuse. And they're doing their best to brainwash the judiciary into believing that any time a woman makes an allegation of rape or any sexual offence, she's to be believed uncritically. And it says here, in the 1980s, new provisions under the criminal code, blah blah blah, banned the omission of prior sexual history evidence in cases where women are supporting the twin myths. The idea that complainants with a prior sexual history are A, more likely to have consented, and B, less worthy of belief. Well, the reality is that some accusers, some witnesses are more credible than others. There's no getting away from that, or more worthy of belief than others. And this isn't simply with regard to sex cases. A nun is more credible than a prostitute. By the same token, a man or woman of good character is more credible than one who is not. And a police officer is generally regarded as more credible than a recidivist. I mean, there's no getting away from this. Now, you can get problems arising here, very serious problems, because people who have a lot of credibility or more credibility realise that those lower down the food chain have less credibility. I mean, a great example of this, I've cited this before, is Holtzclaw, Daniel Holtzclaw, the sexual predator with a badge from Oklahoma City, and he was preying on women who were quite low down the food chain, young black women who were had drug problems and stuff, and none of them reported him because, you know, he was counting on them. I mean, he'd stop a woman who had drugs on her and say, look, I can make this go away if you suck this, that sort of thing. But as soon as he stopped a woman who was driving her own car, who wasn't a prostitute, his goose was cooked. Now, I've had personal experience of this. I've seen it. Professional criminals are being fitted up by the police. Sometimes men who have had criminal past do their best to go straight. They're fitted up for all sorts of things. In the UK, they brought in, with PACE, the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, they brought in tape recording of police interrogations of suspects, and the verballing up of suspects disappeared overnight. You know, it used to be, it's a fair cop gov. The accused made a voluntary statement in the back of the police car, but that's been admissible. Since that's been admissible, they've disappeared off the radar. So if you can't trust the police, how can you trust women? Now, my personal experience is that, and this is my personal experience, is that female police officers, specifically detectives, are more dishonest and more arrogant than they're the pits. You know, there'll be exceptions, obviously, That's my personal experience. Now, that's what they call the twin myths. The real twin myths are, well, there's what I call the 3 Ds, and then there's the tonic immobility. The 3 Ds of false rape allegations are drink, drugs, delay. And a fairly recent addition to the armoury of the sexual grievance industry, rape crisis, is tonic immobility. Tonic immobility is best summed up by the phrase, "I just froze. I thought I'd fight back, but I just froze." Rape Crisis Scotland made a series of videos about this in 2017. If you check out my video, "These Bitches Are Playing You," it's a false rape timeline video. You'll see how it works. The other thing, drink, drugs, delay. Now, the point is, rape is a crime that leaves physical evidence. Now, consent is the only issue. It gets difficult, but women don't consent to be raped. How can I put it? If a woman if a guy tries to rape a woman, she will almost always fight back. I mean, okay, there are instances when she won't. And of course, rape can be effected, but without actual force, physical force. The beautiful definition of rape I found years ago: the illicit carnal knowledge of a woman effected by force, intimidation, threats, or deceit as to the nature of the act. So, if a man blackmails a woman into having sex, police. You get this with police officers in America, where prostitution is illegal. Some of these jerks they say, "Look, if I don't arrest you, I'll arrest you unless," and that constitutes rape without actual. And it's also misconduct in public office, misfeasance in public office, all sorts of things. But normally, if a woman is attacked, she will fight back. There's loads and loads and loads and loads of evidence on this. Look on YouTube, look on Live Leak, read your newspapers. The women, when they're attacked in the street by men, if it's a physical assault or robbery, or by other women, there's even lots of video of women being attacked by men intent on raping them, and they fight back. Almost all women, they fight back. Now, the rape crisis industry would have us believe that there are tons of women in the UK, close to, well, certainly over 1,500 women every week are raped, and they don't report it because they feel terrified they won't be believed. Garbage, absolute garbage. So this nonsense is rape trauma syndrome. You'll find it on timeline at September 1974. This was introduced to explain away delay in reporting. Now, in the 1970s, CCTV was all but unknown, and we didn't have the forensics we have today. There was no DNA profiling, and there was people walking around with mobile phones, cameras and stuff in their pockets and the like. There was a lot less surveillance. There was a lot less, and you'll see nowadays that lots of cases of women are caught. Well, quite a few of them they're called out by CCTV evidence, just CCTV evidence. The case I always cite is from February 1996. A police officer in Palm Beach, California, is accused of groping a female motorist. You'll find it on the timeline. On February 1996, Palm Beach, California, and it's clear as day that it's a very, very poor video. Dash cams haven't been in very long then, but it's clear she never got out of the car and she just made it up. Now, because of that, because it's dangerous, or it can be dangerous for a woman to accuse a man of rape the next day. A lot of them they'll wait months, sometimes years, And I'll say that probably most of those are not, they're not malicious in one sense. They are women. This is called relabelling. It's regret sex. They have these sordid sexual encounters, and they rewrite them in their tiny minds as rape. And again, we've got lots of examples of this. I'll just give you one example. This is one of my favourites. This is from March 28, 1999. A woman named Julie Gavin. She was she's walking home. She three guys in a car offer her a lift home, and she accepts, which can be unwise. And it turns out she has sex with two of them. The guy driving, she has sex with two passengers. She's probably been drinking, and they've probably been drinking. She goes to the police station, and she says she's been raped. Then 2 weeks later, she thinks better of it, and and she goes back and she admits what actually happened. She had sex with these guys voluntarily, and she felt dirty and ashamed, as she might well do. There are lots of cases like this. There are cases in which women, especially with alcohol and drugs, again, I've discussed this. You'll find it on the timeline. Women have a less tolerance for alcohol than men, and sometimes they'll have sex when they're sober, or appear to be entirely sober, and they'll forget about the consent. They may not even remember if they've had, the transition into long-term memory might not be made, and they forget they consent to, even though they've had sex. I'll just give one more. This is very relevant. This isn't a rape case, but this shows you how dangerous the alcohol thing can be. June the 28th, 2018, Amanda Barrow, she got on a train at Aldermaston, and she'd been drinking quite heavily, and she walked up to a guy on the train. She performed a sex act on him, involving either a hand or a mouth, probably a hand. I suppose this guy was technically a victim of sexual assault, but he didn't complain. And there was a schoolgirl on the train. She videoed it. She said, well, she took the picture and she sent it to the police. And the British police, being cunts, having nothing better to do, they tracked her down. They dragged her into court, and she was fined. Now, when she appeared in court, she said, she had no memory. That's me in the video, but I can't remember doing that. Now, do you believe women? I actually believe her. I believe her. This is what can happen when women have been drinking. They do things which they regret later, or which they don't remember later. If they've been taking prescription drugs as well, or recreational drugs, or any permutation of the three, it can screw up people's memories. Women more so than men, and this is where a lot of the false rape allegations come from. Joe Biden, the walking cadaver, is in the news at the moment. I mean, it's a big joke about creepy Uncle Joe, sleepy, creepy, crazy Uncle Joe, as Sean Hattie calls him. It's a big I mean, he's been sort of sniffing young girls' hair and stuff like that. Totally inappropriate, to use that word. And some woman has come forward and claimed that 30 years ago, Biden, in fact, digital penetration of the vagina somehow. And if you listen to her, she's clearly she clearly has problems which are totally unrelated to that incident, which obviously never happened. Maybe Joe said something or did something to her or something, and she's 30 years on, or 30 years or so on. This is becoming in her mind a sexual violation, and of course, we can't know what happened. I don't believe Biden did that. I believe a lot of things of Joe Biden and people like him, but I don't believe he did that. But they rewrite these. They rewrite their sordid experiences, and they have a bad experience, and it becomes confabulated. I don't know. Perhaps she's seen a film or something. Perhaps she's obviously not right in the head. This woman. You'll find that she's. I'm not going to put a link to her, but she's clearly not right in the head. And this this is what happens now. So that is the delay. Trauma. You know, if a woman delays reporting, it's because she's too traumatised, or she fears she won't be believed. You know, that's the one. You know, so if there's allegations of any historicity, there's unlikely to be any physical evidence. So it's she said, he said. Not he said, she said. She said, he said. And why would a woman lie? And what happens with celebrities and famous people is people in the public eyes. You get of the accuser come make allegations like that, and then you get others come forward making similar allegations. Perhaps women who've never met the guy, next thing you know, he's been accused of. He's charged with a string of offences, and what's the prosecution say? Can all these women be lying? And of course, in the United States, they can say to him, look, if you plead guilty to this, we'll drop the other charges. And you know, if you're facing a life sentence or 3 years or imprisonment and signing a sex offenders register, I can understand that the latter may sound attractive. It may sound less unattractive, but it may by far the lesser of the two evils. But it's outrageous what these things that happen. So that is the way they so-called rape trauma syndrome. That is what was used to convict Bill Cosby. It's what was used primarily to convict Harvey Weinstein. Now, the case against Weinstein is substantially stronger because Cosby was just banging white whores left, right, and centre. Weinstein was definitely sexually harassing women, and there was all sorts of settlements, you know, non-disclosure of agreements, etc. Did he actually rape any women? There's one of his accusers claims he raped her, and then she went on to have a consensual relationship with him. And they bring in this head cake, this airhead Barbara Siv to claim, oh, this is what rape victims do. We have 30 years of research tells us this. No, 30 years of listening and believing. That's what we have. Now, if this woman had said, I forget her name now, but if she'd said that she'd become Weinstein's mistress, and she'd had sex with him 10 times, and then he raped her, and then she'd gone to the police, that would have been credible. But she says he raped her, and then she had consensual relationship. No. I mean, that implies consent. That implies consent. You know, if there can be, if a woman is of low intelligence, if she's genuinely vulnerable, if she's living under the same roof of a guy who's a genuine case of coercive control, yeah, but not an actress who's on the make, who wants to get into a film, and of course there's no mileage in her claiming that I dropped my knickers for a fat, repulsive, squint-eyed Jew, and he didn't give me the part. There's no mileage in that. Where she says she was raped, well, there's a lot of sympathy, and you know, she may believe she was raped by now. So that is rape trauma. That is the rape trauma nonsense. And the other thing is tonic immobility. There are lots and lots and lots of cases, as I said, of women who they're assaulted and they fight back. Sometimes they get the better of their attackers. You know, sometimes. You know, don't mess with people you don't know. A lot of women out there, you know, dancers are strong. You know, women football players, athletes. You know, a woman doesn't. A potential rape victim doesn't have to overpower her assailant. She has to put up enough of a fight so he thinks it isn't worth the candle until the cavalry arrives. And they would have us believe that women are these poor, vulnerable. You know, it's just complete nonsense, absolute nonsense. women who are genuine victims report, and they report promptly. It was interesting in the Kavanagh case, like they dragged this hag Blasey Ford out, who made I was inclined to give her the benefit of the doubt initially, and then she was transplanting something that happened onto Kavanagh, but it's clear that there's an American vlogger, Ali Alexander, examined her case, and it's quite clear that she was never at any of these parties, never at this party at which Kavanagh was meant to have done what he's meant to have done. At that time, you had lots of talking heads saying about why women delay reporting sexual assaults for years or decades. None of them mentioned the obvious reason that it never happened. None of them, not one of them. So these are the twin myths. The twin myths are delay and tonic immobility. Delay being drink, drugs, delay. Drinking drugs are part of the delay. Delay and tonic immobility. So any time you hear, I mean, you want evidence, you know, you want evidence, and some of these women, they sound extremely compelling, but there are lots of people can tell very compelling stories which are just tissues of lies. I made a video about this called Rape and Corroboration, which isn't about rape. It's on the Internet Archive, which exactly gives a number of cases of people telling a story, and you have to decide who's telling the truth and who isn't. And it's surprisingly difficult and sometimes impossible to tell truth from fiction. So anyway, that's about all I have to. I'm very disappointed with the. I'll look into the new setup on YouTube, but I don't know much. I did advertise this live, this hangout very, very widely. I had one guy turn up for sure. I don't know if anybody else did. So it may be that if I make them in future, I'll just do them as hangouts and I'll add them to the False Rape timeline. Okay, anyone wants to email me, they can do. The False Rape timeline, you've got the address. It's www.falserapetimeline.org, and of course I'm on YouTube and on the Internet Archive, and also on BitChute to a limited extent.